What goals did you set for 2025? If better sleep is one, Symbiotica's magnesium L-threonate helps you wake up refreshed. For gut health, their glutathione supports digestion and reduces bloating. Symbiotica is one of the most transparent brands out there, never compromising on quality or sourcing. Their products are free from seed oils, preservatives, toxins, and artificial additives, something you can taste and feel in every packet. Go to Symbiotica.com and use code iHeart for 20% off and free shipping. That's Symbiotica.com, code iHeart.
Hey, it's Bobby Bones with some exciting news. Open booking is here for the Top Shelf Country Cruise, setting sail February 2026 aboard the luxurious Celebrity Reflection. Spots are filling up fast, so book your stateroom today or sign up to become a lineup insider to receive the final lineup 48 hours prior to the public. Don't miss your chance to make February 2026 unforgettable. Visit TopShelfCountryCruise.com. That's TopShelfCountryCruise.com.
Yeah, he was bitching about The Witcher. He said no women can actually sword fight.
Whatever, man. I have like dozens of women on speed dial. I could set him up with one if he wants to test that fucking theory.
Wait, you have dozens of women on speed dial?
Yeah, but it's like for geek stuff, so that doesn't count.
Yeah.
God damn it!
That will be $233, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. That was fun.
Eli, why is there a river in our studio?
Okay, first of all, it's a canal. Very clearly has a system of
Obviously.
locks. Use your eyes. Second of all, isn't it great? I was inspired by this week's episode. We're going to be rich, you guys.
He's right. The locks are very clearly visible.
That's
This could
not
be
the
a river.
problem. By the way, Eli, our studio isn't between two major bodies of water. Plus, it appears you built this into like a small circle. Who are your customers? Who could they possibly be?
So far, I will admit, mostly Heath, but others are going to come. You'll see. By the way, that'll be $233. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, hey, Cecil. Hey, Noah. You guys like it?
Heath,
No.
where did you get the money to buy that boat?
Oh, yeah. Eli loaned it to me with the money he's making on this canal. Pretty sweet, right? Sweet boat.
I mean, no. It seems like you just bought a boat with money you're giving back to Eli.
Also, pretty sure that's Monopoly money and not real money.
So wait, I didn't need to get diphtheria as part of the business plan, Eli?
Oh, no, you did not.
Very much did not have to do that.
Man!
Where did you get diphtheria?
I got a disease guy.
That tracks.
Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, a podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Heath, and I'll be the Steam Shovel host, which actually has a nice double meaning this week. And joining me is the usual panel of experts, and also Tom and Eli. But let's make it official. First up, we have the before and after pictures for Lawn Gnome CrossFit, Eli and Tom.
Lawn gnomes wish they could twerk like me, Heath, and right? They wish.
They do.
Okay, we also, it's the after picture. It's just a bunch of lawn gnomes with blown out knees and slip discs hobbling around.
And also joining me are the before and after pictures for LARPing supplements, Noah and Cecil.
Yeah, they're like the opposite of boner pills. Yeah.
And if you're a girl, that supplement is just a prominently displayed packet of desiccant right here. Do not eat.
All right, let's get right into it. Tell us, Eli, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event are we going to be talking about today?
We'll be talking about the Panama Canal, Heath.
Okay. This is one of the easier ones to just read. And Noah, are you ready to tell us about the time that we tried to saw off South America and push it away into the ocean like Bugs Bunny did with Florida?
Well, I'll save that for my essay on the Monroe Doctrine. But yeah, I can tell you about one of the times that we did that with shovels.
Great. So what was Well, what was the extremely protracted backstory of your eventual topic?
Oh, they're on to me. Okay, so when we think about Europeans learning about the Americans, we tend to think of it as a discovery. Hey, come on, I didn't start with the formation of these continents.
We're already at okay.
I so wanted to start with the formation of these continents. Okay.
Nearly 2,000 years.
So, but we tend to think of this as a discovery. Unfortunately, when you're trying to get to China, which is what they were doing when they came across it, it's more of a cruel fucking joke, right? There are literally two entire north-south oriented continents blocking your way for all but like the 600 southernmost miles on the planet. And for those two continents to be fused together by a tendril that's less than 40 miles wide at one point seems like Earth's intentionally fucking with you.
Panama is the thinnest part of the tape that separates the living room and the Odd Couple.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
For listeners under the age of 40, The Odd Couple was a play in the 1960s about Neil Simon not knowing his neighbors were gay. So, go ahead and look it up. It's a lot of fun.
All right, so basically from the time we mapped that shit, we're looking for a way through. And there were two schools of thought on how and where to do it, often divided up as the French and American strategies. The French locked their sights on the Panamanian Isthmus, which seems logical because it's the part where the two oceans are closest together. At its narrowest point, it's literally only 37 miles long. That's like 60 kilometers.
Okay, spoiler alert, the French never successfully built it, but they did have a much better name. They called it the French Connection.
Oh, hell's yeah. Hell's yeah. All right, so the Americans tended to favor Nicaragua, which seems crazy if you just glance at the map, but if you look a little harder, you'll see why. Yes, Nicaragua is a much wider country, almost 3 times the coast-to-coast distance that you'd have in Panama, but a lot of that space that you'd need to cover is already filled up with Lake Nicaragua, right? So the actual amount of canal that we'd need to dig wouldn't be that much longer.
Okay, but there is nothing more American than building walls inside a Central American lake to make our own dedicated canal within that lake. That's super American.
All right, so obviously longer isn't better in this instance, but Nicaragua had a lot of other shit going for it as well.
Girth, is that?
Actually, yeah. For example,
is that the selling point? I don't know if that's a selling point.
No, not in this instance. But it was a more developed area. It was a more politically stable region. There wasn't a huge floody ass river in the middle of your canal path, and Nicaragua was significantly less malarial.
Any smart project manager knows that your job is to reduce the chance of any biblical plague. So cutting blood, flood, and insects seems like a great start to this.
Yeah, exactly. Now, in addition to an American and French location for the canal, there was also something of an American versus French type of canal during the planning phase.
God.
The French favored a sea-level canal like the one that they had just built at Suez. The Americans favored a lock canal like the one that they just built across New York. There are pros and cons of both of these too, but a sea-level canal, of course, can accommodate more traffic more quickly, but a lock canal can be built quicker since you have to excavate less.
It's that old question of faster, cheaper, better. You get 2 out of 3. So someone asked America about that, and it was like, all right, so do you want faster? Yes, faster. Great, we want faster.
Exactly, right. Another fun fact, actually, about the difference between the different types of canals. Okay, that was 6 paragraphs, though.
Damn it, you're right. It was 6.
So close.
That's me. It's in the box.
Yeah.
I'm in the box.
You up? Fuck. All right, pay up.
I was so sure he'd get it with Isthmus.
Right? Isthmus, I thought for sure.
I thought so.
I'm back. Laying on that lady who owns the yoga studio's car again. It's a soft car.
She does not like us.
She does not. That is true.
She needs a new car.
She should or park anywhere else.
I'm going sea level canal though. Sea level canal is my favorite though. Noah, I'm sorry. Just go on. Yeah, just keep going.
All right. So the first major player we meet in this story is Ferdinand de Lesseps. All right. So he's the guy chiefly responsible for building the Suez Canal. He was a French consul in Cairo, and he worked out a deal to build this canal, even though he had 0 qualifications to do it. Then he made it happen, even when all the smart folks told him it was impossible, and told his investors it was a scam. So that opens in 1869, makes de Lesseps a national hero. Right, the Suez Canal was a huge source of national pride for a country that still hadn't quite lived down the continental pariah reputation that Napoleon had left them.
This is like an inspiring story, you know? It's a story of like a man with no qualifications, undertaking massive infrastructure projects and succeeding. It's not only massively unexpected, but I guess it's also dangerously irresponsible. But a true hero is an accidental hero, damn it. That's what they say.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, he would be worthy of his own episode as well. So, but naturally, once he had done that, he turned his eyes to Panama. And he very slowly learns the problem with accomplishing the impossible. So throughout his work in Egypt, everybody kept telling him, this is impossible, you'll never succeed, this can't be done. And he shrugged off what all the experts said, and he did it anyway. So when the surveyors come back from Panama and told him that what he wanted to do there was impossible, he ignored them, even though this time they were right.
If you're just going to do that, why do you want to hire the surveyors anyway? I don't even understand why you would hire them.
Yeah, why even have a Senate if they're just going to do it? You just do it anyway. 25%.
Well, so what he needed, he wanted like the patina of scientific consensus that his idea was good.
Yeah.
So, and let me be clear about what his idea was. He wanted to build a canal at sea level. Right, over and over, they sent out these surveying teams. Then they came back saying one of two things. Either they'd say, you can't build a sea level canal there, you'd need to use locks. Or they'd say, yeah, man, whatever you want me to say. You'd be amazed how many prostitutes you can get with French money over there. But de Lesseps made it super clear that the answer he wanted was sea level canal is the best way to go. And so eventually he got it.
Weird way to fish for approval.
So if you see here, sir, the sea level would be quite impossible to maintain due to several factors.
Yeah, whatever. I don't even care about that.
What? What's the matter, sir?
Yeah, if you don't know, I'm not even going to tell you, okay? Not going to tell you if you don't
Are you mad? Are you mad?
No.
You're mad.
All right, so what followed was one of the greatest engineering disasters of all time.
Yeah, but there was no way to predict that. So no, we couldn't have known.
Right, yeah, exactly.
That's just
Exactly.
left field.
All right. So it was the largest financial failure in history to that point, if you exclude the existence of war, because there are fucking mountains along the way there, right? They literally would have to chop down mountains to make this work. And when you start digging out mountains, they tend to slide more mountain into all that shit you just dug out. Okay, so throughout this ordeal, every time they make some real progress, a big landslide will come through and fill in all the shit that they just dug in. And by the way,
they're just digging away like, don't look up and it won't happen again, Frank.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then here's the fucked up thing is that you'd have all your steam shovels and shit right there where all the fucking burial shit was just going to slide in. And as you can imagine, it isn't super easy to get industrial excavating equipment in the middle of what's pretty much an uncharted jungle at this point.
I love that every time they're digging out the canal, the sides collapse. They just need a good motto, like shore to shore, gentlemen, shore to shore.
Noah, to be fair, he had faith he could do this, and that shit will move mountains. I read all about this.
Yeah. Right into your fucking canal.
This boulder up the hill, and then it keeps rolling back down. This feels like what there's a word, right? I don't know.
Does the bird have to eat my liver? It's fine. It's fine.
That's a different one.
That is
all
a
right, but the landslides. So the landslides were far from the biggest problem in terms of mortality. That would be the disease. Malaria and yellow fever were the big ones. Now, there are no official numbers on the deaths, but we know that the death rate was significantly higher than 200 people a month, right? Half a dozen people die of yellow fever every day. That's bad for all kinds of reasons, among which is that it makes it like super hard to recruit new people, makes you need to constantly recruit new people, make sure you don't have any experienced people on hand, and also not great for morale.
Heath, we might want to rethink our investment in the Wuhan Canal. I think we might.
Oh, Eli, that joke will be so outdated. I'm sure by the time this episode goes up, the Chinese government will have that under control.
They'll have it all flamethrowered.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so the biggest problem in terms of engineering was probably the rain. So Panama gets a dry season of about 4 months a year, and it just so happens that most of the surveying expeditions chose that time of year to do their work. And like, honestly, why wouldn't you, right? You're going to get a lot more done if it's not raining all the time. But that meant that the engineers planning this thing never got a sense of just how brutal and constant the rain was there.
Well, they knew enough to send their surveyors there when it wasn't bad.
Right. Right, but they didn't realize like how hard it was going to be to keep metal shit from rusting, how hard it would be to secure new excavations. It also obviously increases the likelihood of landslides, and perhaps most importantly, it turns the Chagres River, I believe is how it's pronounced, the Chagres River, which is right down the fucking path of the canal, into a raging torrent that flooded its banks by more than 20 feet.
Jesus. Sir, look, we've figured out the fire spurts and the lightning sand, but this flooding river is giving us headaches.
And tackled by a chupacabra. Ow, what the fuck? Okay. This rodent is unusually large in size. This is gonna be difficult.
All right, so one thing you have to keep in mind here is that this is not a French government project doing this, right? De Lesseps has a ton of support and help from the government, but this is a private enterprise. The contract that the Colombian government signed, Panama was a province of Colombia at the time, was with De Lesseps, not the French government. And this was all being funded by the money that he could raise selling stock in that new company.
Yeah, the fucking invisible hand was like all covered in calluses and shit. And also malaria. That was all.
Malaria.
Makes Thrive sound like a damn good deal by comparison, doesn't it?
It was actually by comparison. Okay, but here's the thing though, this stock is spectacularly easy for him to sell. The people that invested in the Suez Canal got fucking rich. And since most of the banks and shit thought that was a pipe dream, most of the original Suez investors weren't fat cats. There were a lot of stories of like working class folks investing a few $100 in savings in the Suez Canal and then retiring to the Riviera. So people were gobbling up a chance to get in on De Lesseps' newest project.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't afford not to, right?
Yes. And of course, since most of his backers aren't like the savviest of investors to begin with, they didn't really freak out when the actual progress kept coming in way under the projections. He'd just come out and say, yeah, this is how it is when you build shit. They'd go, okay. They didn't freak out when he like kept going back and selling yet more bonds against the future earnings of this thing. Or,
bad sign.
Yeah, right. Or even worse, when he literally sought government approval to sell lottery bonds.
No,
which were basically like, lottery tickets that paid off with bigger chunks of the canal's future earnings if you were lucky.
Yeah, but unlike other bonds, they were just like regular lottery tickets, worthless. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not true, Cecil. You just got to be the one selling the lottery tickets is all.
Right.
In this interest.
See, and that is why I diversified my portfolio. I'm also heavily invested in scratch-offs.
Right, yes. And the high dollar was the bingo ones. They pay off.
You got to short the lottery tickets. That's the key. Buying a bunch of puts on lottery tickets.
Yeah.
Killing it.
All right. So eventually the whole thing falls apart and construction stops on May 15th of 1889. The company went bankrupt after spending a reported $287 million, about $8 billion in today's money. They killed off over 22,000 people, and they dug way less than a fifth of a canal. So, needless to say, the backlash in France was seismic. Over 800,000 investors lost everything. The court started tossing people in jail for misappropriating funds. The ensuing scandal ensnared names as big as Alfred Nobel, the prize guy, Gustav Eiffel, the tower guy, and while De Lesseps avoided jail time, his son wasn't as lucky. So all that being said, there was a perfectly good chunk of canal just sitting there for the taking and a pretty big country nearby that really wanted one of those. And was about to be presided over by a 10-year-old boy that loved to play with his construction toys.
Okay. So, sociopathic idiot was way too confident about a giant construction project. He defrauded investors, and he never got convicted. Great. All right, I guess we'll take a quick break while France holds our beer, and we'll do a little apropos of that.
Bonjour, gentlemen. How goes the work on my magnificent canal?
Well, sir, not great.
It just keeps filling in!
As you can see, wherever we dig, the high waters of the river fill in what we've done. We get landslides.
I see. Perhaps we should extend the shifts, work the men harder, longer?
It's coming from the underneath!
No, I don't think so, sir.
Ah, well, you know what they say. No pressure, no diamonds.
Sure thing, sir.
My arm,
They're so tired!
Bonjour, gentlemen. How is the... Wait, where's the guy from yesterday?
Oh, yeah, Steve became convinced last night that he was in hell and the foreman was the devil, so Steve killed him.
That was on me! Me!
Yep.
Ah, that's too bad.
Really is too bad,
I
yeah.
brought donuts, though!
Yeah, well, he did bring donuts.
That's good. So, what's the good word?
Honestly, it's not great. We've gone from digging in the water to running from landslides. That's mostly what we're doing now.
Landslides?
Yeah. Well, when you actually succeed in digging into a mountain, it's mostly landslides at that point.
I see. Well, keep up the good work. And remember, no pressure.
No diamonds, yep.
Oh, you heard that one.
I have, yes, heard that.
Just so much water!
Yep.
So good!
Keep digging, buddy, you're fine.
I've been digging!
You want a donut?
I'm good.
Okay. I'm finishing the last one.
Hey, podcast listener, do you enjoy this show?
Do you want even more of this show?
Well, then why not sign up to support the show over at patreon.com/citationpod.
Our patrons don't just get the warm feeling of knowing they're supporting the show, they also get access to our patron-only short episodes like the one we just did about the Battle of Karen Sebes.
Just listen to what you're missing. And Cecil, you learned about this in between World War II documentaries and falling asleep in your chair. Are you ready to history dad it up?
History dad sounds so repulsive. You'd have to reproduce. Gross. I'd rather be like a history uncle. That'd be way better.
All right, Cecil. So tell us about the Battle of Karen's Bees.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so there's different ways to pronounce it. Karen Sebes, Karen Shebesh is another way I heard with the shach going on there, but I'm not going to do the shach.
Doesn't seem right.
I'm not
There's
going to
no
do that.
H in there.
I'm not going to do that. So the Battle of Karen Sebes was a terrible case of friendly fire. And by that, I mean that this article is riddled with citation needed and dubious disgust notation. So basically, everything Eli writes. That's what this is.
Cool. Actually, so Eli, maybe just, tell us a quick version of the Battle of Karen Sebes off the top of your head. Make it kind of...
Okay. The year was 1997, and Charlize Theron's dad was about to get what was coming.
I mean, he was, but the rest of what you were about to say was going to be fake.
Yeah.
But that's not all. Our $2 patrons can check out the video we took of our live shows in New York, full of all the miming and physical business you didn't know you were missing.
Patreon.com/citationpod. More of this show, less of us being poor.
Zip Tom.
Except Tom. And we're back. When we left off, the French were giving up on something and asking for America's help, so good practice. What's next?
Jesus.
All right, so imagine you're a salesman, right? So you've got this canal.
Sorry.
Yeah, never again. No, I get it. No, just in your imagination. So you got this canal that you've got to offload. There is precisely one potential buyer in the goddamn universe. They like the color, but they want it somewhere a little closer to Nicaragua. This is the job of one Philippe Bunovaria. All right. After the Panama affair blows over in Paris, the courts create a new company called the Compagnie Nouvelle de la fucking Panama or whatever. Bunovaria is tasked with selling the French interest in that company and returning at least some investment to the 750,000 people who lost their shirts over this thing. So he goes to the only potential buyer. He says, hey, you guys want the biggest financial disaster in history? I'll give it to you for $100 million. And the U.S. is like, we'll take it for $40 million. And then what the fuck is he going to do? Right?
He's like, hey, I have this big money bonfire going. You guys want to pay me to burn some of your money too? No worries.
Right.
Look, I mean, it seems stupid, sure, but they don't actually buy the canal. They bought points, and they can use those points at dozens of canals all over the world. I mean, you're going to use a canal anyway, sir.
Right,
You have to sit through the whole presentation to get the golf club. Sit down.
All right. So America gets the canal for a song, but there's a snag. The deal that de Lesseps signed with the Colombian government didn't give him the right to sell, especially not to a foreign government. Right? I mean, if you think about this from Colombia's perspective, the canal being controlled by some faraway European country or a company in a faraway European country is way different as a proposition than it being controlled by the dominant military force in your hemisphere. Right? And they weren't even consulted when the deal was being done between the U.S. and this French company.
What? Okay, we'll buy your disease-infested landslide mud pit. I got 40 million right here.
Okay, great. 38, 39, 40. Yep, seems in order. Seems in order to me.
Indeed. Just one quick question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So you have the right to sell me this property, right?
Of course I can. Silly boy, of course I can. What? I just did. Did I not?
No, I mean legally. I probably should have checked all this, but dotting my I's and all.
Legally?
Yes, legally. You have saleable rights. That's the question. I'm asking you the question.
Yeah, the question you're asking after you gave me $40 million.
Well, we spit in our hands. And
we did.
You're not going to give me back that money, are you?
No, I'm not.
Please don't tell my dad.
All right, so what Colombia was demanding here was not at all unreasonable. They wanted a cut of the $40 million that the company was getting. Right? The company came in with a lot of big promises before they went bankrupt. The Colombian government had invested in this project themselves. They'd foregone a lot of tax revenue along the way to this bankruptcy. They just wanted some level of compensation for that.
I mean, you got to give us something. The only thing that grows on this land we gave you is cocaine. What are we supposed to do?
Yeah, right. All right, so the president of the United States at the time is one Teddy Roosevelt.
The cocaine of presidents.
Yeah, exactly, yes. And he doesn't see the Colombian demands as reasonable at all. In fact, he sees them as a shakedown because he's a fucking racist. Right? Like, they literally weren't even asking the U.S. to pay them anything. They were asking a private company, a private French company, to compensate them for violating a contract. But they were darker skinned than the French people, so Roosevelt assumed that they were the bad guys in this story. And then, with absolutely no help from the U.S. government, by the way, the fact that a U.S. Navy destroyer showed up just in time to block Colombian forces notwithstanding, the people of Panama, all on their own, rebelled against their Colombian government.
Interesting.
Yeah, and since the U.S. had an official duty to protect the Trans-Panamanian Railroad under the Bidlack Treaty,
I was reading about that.
And since things looked like they were about to get violent, why, by golly, they had no choice but to land a bunch of troops just then and stop both armies before anything got out of hand.
It's depressing how well our U.S. foreign policy of middle school fighting seems to work just all the time, everywhere. We just show up, push people into the middle of a circle and start yelling, fight, fight, fight. And it works. And then we drop a fucking Halliburton anvil on both sides, and then we get paid to clean up the bodies, too.
Jesus.
Also, we own that middle school now.
Yes, we do.
So that we can teach everyone in history class that the problem with that fight was communism. Yeah, that tracks. It's two kids
Sometimes
were
it does.
communists.
So the Panamanian people rose up in this bloodless coup. The U.S. recognizes the rebel government immediately, and as their first act as a government, they appoint Bruno Faria as their ambassador to the United States. The French dude that sold them the goddamn canal. So the U.S. negotiated
Drained the
and
swamp.
signed a canal treaty with the guy selling the canal without any actual Panamanians present, all within hours of the coup that we had nothing to do with.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We were like the Thomas Edisons of global politics. That's a nice voice recorder you got there. Can I see it? Boom, patented. Patented, bitch.
Yeah, right,
In your face.
Great. And now stand right there next to, you see Nikola Tesla right there with the red X on the ground and anvil.
Now, we all know that this story ends with a canal, when we look back on this, it seems like the U.S. got a ridiculously good deal. But at the time, a lot of people saw it as us buying the biggest financial disaster of all time, which is exactly what we did, right? How we led a revolution and alienated an entire continent for 117 goddamn years and counting for the right to buy the biggest financial disaster of all time. So obviously the pressure is high to make this work. All right, so step one of making this canal happen, you gotta cure malaria, which seems like a huge fucking ass, given it that it like co-evolved with the human species. But fortunately for the entire effort, the disease vector was recently identified as the mosquito. And not only that, but they actually figured out specifically which breed of mosquito carried it. There's just the one.
Oh, that isn't important. You wouldn't want to kill the wrong mosquito is what a tragedy
Yeah,
that would fucking be, huh? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So how do you cure malaria? You get rid of all the fucking mosquitoes. That means literally going door to door, making sure that there's no standing water for the little bastards to breed in. It means fumigating constantly. It means cutting back big swaths of jungle. So that's exactly what they did. Now, as much as this is normally thought of as this, story of a bunch of people dying of malaria, the efforts against that disease stand out as one of the biggest accomplishments of the entire project.
Yeah, it sure did. And over 400,000 people each year still die of malaria. Just want to point that out. We figured it out. It just costs too much to save those people.
Okay, Cecil, we didn't cure malaria. What we did is we stopped it from spreading to white people. So, tomato, fuck you. It's the same. It's like one the same right there. Right.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. And that's all we did then, too, right? So all these advances pretty much only affected the white workers. The work was segregated, and the white workers were given pretty decent places to live, especially if they were married and had kids. Black workers, mostly Caribbean black workers, were crammed into overcrowded and under-provisioned shitholes. Right. So many of them took the option of foregoing company lodging altogether, and they'd stay in a nearby town or just out in the jungle where the malaria eradication efforts hadn't reached. Of course, we don't really have numbers on it, but it's worth emphasizing that all these great benefits of modernity weren't exactly being doled out fairly.
Okay, but employment in the black community was at an all-time high. Let's be honest about all the numbers.
And this is why we need to avoid big infrastructural change.
So once you got disease under control.
For the white people, let's be
for
clear,
the white people, yeah.
Just have, okay.
You've got to tackle the big engineering problems. Now, the U.S. got to leapfrog over the biggest hurdle for the French because they didn't go into it with these starry-eyed hopes for a sea-level canal. They would be using locks to raise ships up to an artificial lake, Gatun Lake. And then lower them back down on the other side. That solved a shit ton of the problems. First of all, you don't have to dig out as much shit. Secondly, you basically drowned the Chagres River, which is the one causing you all the trouble.
The Andrea Yates method.
Oh, wow,
that's
dude.
dark.
There's so many other people you could have made that joke.
Andrea Yates.
Don't look it up. Don't bother Googling that. Google that. Third, and maybe most importantly, the tides on the Pacific side are way higher than on the Atlantic, and it's really hard to account for that with a sea-level canal.
Like, what was the French plan for that? Just like a Dutch kid that they were going to have stick their finger in it or something?
Who the fuck knows? All that being said, there are still plenty of engineering obstacles to overcome, and there weren't a hell of a lot of people clamoring to take this job. Yeah, I mean, you'd go down in history if you did, but given the past performances, it would probably be as another miserable failure. The U.S. officially took over in May of 1904 under the direction of this dude named John Finley Wallace. He resigns after about a month. The next dude to take the job was John Frank Stevens. He was a self-educated engineer with a long background in railroad construction. That might not seem like the most significant qualification, but at its heart, it turns out that this thing was actually mostly a railroad project.
Man, I really don't understand canals.
You do not know.
Describe canals. So what is a lock canal, Eli?
You put a train in the water, and then it becomes
so here's the thing. Boat. The limiting factor is not how much can you dig, it's how much dirt can you haul away from the dig site.
And that other guy who had failed earlier just walks away like, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck? Wrong question. Stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid.
All right, so Steven set up the system that is crazy efficient, like where the whole fucking train tips over altogether to dump off the dirt. From what I understand, if we dug this canal today, we wouldn't be able to dig any faster than we did with the 1904 technology. Now, the scale of this whole thing is impossible to get your head around, but I came across this amazing fact that kind of helps you with this problem. At one point, the accountants and bureaucrats and shit were able to save millions of dollars a year by implementing a shake the concrete bags harder before you throw them away policy.
God
All
damn.
right? In all, they'd need to remove about 170 million cubic yards of dirt. In their dozen-year venture, the French, by the way, had excavated about 30 million. Most of this was done by these massive, like, railroad-mounted steam shovels. And apparently, by the way, the company newspaper that circulated in the company town printed weekly totals on how much earth each steam shovel moved, and people would follow that shit like baseball scores.
There's one guy super pissed because he has a different steam shovel starting in his fantasy league. He's like furious about it.
It was, like, honestly, Cecil, it was almost that. It was very, they would bet money on it. It's fucking crazy. Okay, so ultimately, the canal was finished 2 years ahead of schedule and came in under budget, if you can believe that shit. And the plan was they were going to do this whole big ceremony and pull out all the stops for it, but they just so happened to finish the whole thing up in the summer of 1914, right about the time World War I was starting. Ooh. So, yeah, basically the fucking big thing was just two guys on a tugboat blowing into noisemakers and throwing confetti at each other. All right, so since its completion, nearly 1 million ships have passed through the canal. Today, it accommodates about 14,000 a year. The 50-mile trip takes between 8 and 10 hours, and throughout it, a specially trained pilot has to take control of the boat, no matter who owns the damn boat or how good they are at boating.
There's like one sea captain dad just like, give me the keys, I'm backing it in. You can't do
yeah, exactly.
What it is.
No. A new larger set of locks was added between 2007 and 2016, but other than that, not a hell of a lot has changed, because as impressive a feat of engineering as this is, it's still just a big hole, and they don't need to be very high tech.
All right. And if you had to summarize what you've learned in one sentence, what would it be?
That the least interesting part of the Panama Canal story is the part where they dug a canal.
All right. And are you ready for the quiz?
I am, sir.
Okay, I'm going to go first here. Noah, what's the best part about renting the land for your shipping canal? A, your landlord won't barge in. B, you get to serve your landlord with conviction paperwork. Or C, no one will change the locks.
Oh, it's hard to pick just one. I'm going to go with C.
All right. C it is. It is. They can't change your locks.
All right, so. Noah, it doesn't take a detective to know that while the Panama Canal is pretty great, there is another canal full of mud that is significantly sexier. Which one is it? A, it's alimentary, I guess.
It's an amazing question. Whether it's multiple choice or essay style, the answer is A. I got it.
It is. I just wanted to make an alimentary canal joke, and I stopped.
Yeah, okay,
Is that about anal, too?
Yeah.
All right, Noah.
Technically the end of the elementary.
What's the most impressive thing about the Panama Canal? Is it A, that we filled 12 pages with one time they dug a hole for boats? Or B, A,
I filled most of those 12 pages. I'm going to go with, you know what, Eli? I'm going to go with C. There's all kind of interesting shit about it. I'm sure a number of people thought this was a great topic for me to distill in an episode.
Speaking of which, when Pangea started, there wasn't even close to like
That's
that.
right.
And they split apart.
That's right.
And then the shapes happened like this. And we had to
Perfectly
do
reasonable time to start this story. C is the answer.
no.
Yeah,
No,
I'm wrong, Eli. I'm setting you up for me.
Incorrect.
Wrong. Yeah, so.
Congratulations, Eli. You are the winner.
Fantastic. Heath, you write the next essay.
Great. All right. Well, for Tom, Noah, Cecil, and Eli, I'm Heath. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week. And by then, I apparently will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can hear Tom and Cecil on cognitive dissonance. And you can hear Eli, Noah, and myself on God-Awful Movies, The Scathing Atheist, and The Skeptocrat. And if you'd like to help finance our Panama Canal of podcasts, White Dudes Winging It, a.k.a. Citation Needed, you can make a per-episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, listen to past episodes, connect with us on social media, or take a look at the show notes, Be sure to check out citationpod.com.